Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Tim Newton Today. And today we're in Penang. So it's a very different program because we're sort of making it up as we go today. Well, firstly, I've got to check whether you can hear me, whether you can hear that. It is going to be noisy today, so I'm going to warn you that there is going to be noise in the background. Now, as it happens, I've found some fast internet. Not particularly easy thing to do in Penang. So I'm at a place called Gravy Baby. We'll see more of it in just a moment, but I'm right sort of in the heart of a place called Georgetown. I'll tell you a bit about my journey to Penang very soon, but it's not quite as smooth as it should have been, but it never is. And I'll tell you why I'm here as well. What I'd really like to discuss with you all today, and thank you to all those people that are tuning in. We'll get to your comments and things as best I can soon. But what are you doing with your travel? Are you planning on traveling soon? Have you been traveling? What have you noticed different about travel in this what we call sort of post-COVID period? How have things changed? I've noticed a lot of subtle changes, and I'd like to discuss those with you and get your thoughts. But yeah, I'm in a place called Georgetown. I can't really go on much of a walk because I'll walk away from the internet. I'll try walking out a bit further, see what happens. Just so you can see Gravy Baby. This apparently has got some of the best food in Georgetown, and I can attest that it is definitely, if you're a Westerner, probably the best breakfast around. Anyway, let's go and have a sit down and a chat. Da-da-da-da-da. Thanks for joining in. See if we can have a bit of fun today. I'll just pull this in. Ugh. Get set up and trying to straighten the camera up a little bit. So yeah, we're in Georgetown, Penang, and a few things I wanted to have a talk about. Who have we got here? We've got Tim and Jason and Dam. I'll just move that over a little bit closer. Got my stitches out. Where are they? They're over here. All my stitches out. Can't see a thing. So Hans, Frank, got all the usuals, Praveen, Albert, great, and Nong Hua So. So I was going to have a talk about travel. I think this is one of the things that a lot of people are sort of wondering, how are things at the moment? How have things changed? We are in a very different dynamic. I think a lot of people thought, well, you know, sort of, somebody from Khartoum, pretty close to where I come from. So there's this sort of feeling that it's back to normal. This is not normal. It's a very different dynamic. And I really wanted to get your impressions on this. Somebody mentioning a story out of Australia, this is from Aussie Tim, Australia allowed 800 COVID-19 passengers off a cruise ship in Sydney, the second time plane stupidity. So yeah, I just heard briefly about the story. I don't know much about it except what you've been able to explain to me. But COVID is part of this whole new situation. I think a lot of people think, oh, you know, COVID's gone, COVID's disappeared, there's no more COVID. Well, that's not quite true. If you have a look at the numbers, there is what you might call the start of a new wave. Now, before you think, oh, he's panicking everybody again, this is not panicking. Of course, the current variants of COVID are much weaker than the earlier ones and much less dangerous. But of course, we don't know if there's going to be other variants that could be more dangerous. A lot of people think that as the variants increase, that they become weaker. Well, that's not necessarily true. It could change tack and become much more dangerous. You just don't know. COVID's out there now. It's becoming endemic in many places around the world. But the whole COVID story is not over yet. And we need to keep that in mind as we sort of move into 2023. Somewhat, nearly 3 years after COVID first sprung up in Wuhan, China. Cheers, everybody. So, why did I travel to Penang? Well, there are a few different ways that you can sort your visa out. If you're moving from one business to another, there are ways that you can sort of transition from one company to another. It can be complicated. Oh, thank you very much to Khalid. Very, very kind donation. Gratefully accepted, and thank you for joining in. If you've got any questions, ask. It's a little bit hard. I've got a lot of bright sunshine out there, and it's not particularly easy to read the screen, so just bear with me as I try and go. But the easiest way to clear your visa is just to leave the country without getting a re-entry permit, and that cancels your old visa. So when I go back to Thailand tomorrow, I'll go in with a 45-day visa exempt stamp, which will allow me to stay there for 45 days. I can extend that for another 30 days for 1,900 baht. And during that time, I'll be able to get my new non-B visa and work permit to continue a situation I've had in Thailand for many, many years. I looked at one of the long stay resident visas. One of them was applicable to me, but really at the end of the day, it was just easier to get a non-B visa and a new work permit. So that's what I've chosen to do. It all happened quite early. Yesterday at 10 a.m, I got the phone call from the visa people, and they said, look, leave the country today, we'll have it all sorted out early next week. So I'm here for the weekend. I haven't been back to Penang for quite a while. Let's try and describe Penang. Penang is a little island in basically the Andaman Sea, or as they sort of call it down here in Malaysia, the Straits of Malacca, which is the west side of the Malaysian peninsula. And it used to be called the Pearl of the Orient. Thank you very much to Durian, and I certainly will grab a coffee, or for now it's a glass of water. It used to be called the Pearl of the Orient, and I was just looking back at all the old posters, the lovely old travel posters of the 50s and the 60s, and it used to sort of make Penang out as the exotic place that you'd go in the Orient if you wanted a little bit of a taste of Asia without sort of going full China or full Japan. So one of those places I was always a bit interested to go and see. And Penang has got a very strong, what we'd call a Peranakan culture. They're the Malaysian sort of Straits Chinese, and there's a very big influence of that also in Phuket town when you go to Phuket. So Phuket is also the Pearl of the Andaman, so I'll be doing an article in the next few weeks comparing the two pearls, the Pearl of the Orient and the Pearl of the Andaman. Phuket, though, has got a population of some 450,000 permanents, plus a shitload of tourists. And Penang a little bit different. It's got a permanent population of about 1 million, but it's got a very strong IT sector here. There's a whole sector up in the northern part of the island where there's factories and there's offices, and there's a lot of people working in the IT sector here. So even without the tourism here during COVID, Penang was sort of able to survive without the tourists because it had that strong business side to it. Although, of course, they suffered like everybody else. Hi, Paul. Hi, Stevie. And look, thank you. I can't say hello to absolutely everybody, but I'm very grateful that you're joining in and saying hello. And if you do have some questions or comments, I'm just going to be freewheeling, talking about a whole lot of stuff today. Some of it might be interesting, some of it might not be. So I got to Penang. It costs around about, in Thai baht, what is it? Around about Malaysian ringgit. It's around about 1,500 each way, 1,500 Thai baht. I flew on Firefly, and Firefly are a sort of a small regional airline. I'm not sure if they're linked with Malaysian Airlines or one of the other airlines, but they've got sort of an orange livery. And I've flown down here many times in the past. They used to fly in sort of little 4-engine turboprop smaller planes, like 2x2. I was flying on a Boeing 737-800 yesterday. Seems to be a new addition to their fleets. Is Malaysia visa on arrival for Westerners? Yes, I just came in and they stamped me in. I actually haven't looked at my stamp. I think I'm here for. You can arrive here as a Westerner, most Western countries, for 90 days. I think I haven't checked. No, I won't check. I'll be going through my passport for half an hour trying to find the answer. But I think it's about a 90-day visa on arrival for most Westerners. Penang has condos on one side and straw huts on the other of the island for workers. Okay. Langkawi is a real paradise. Yes, Langkawi, another island here in the sort of northern part of Malaysia. Much more sort of tropical resort than Penang, which has got sort of much more worker culture. Not very good beaches, but Georgetown is a real gem. And I think Lonely Planet, about 10 years ago, called it the best foodie location in the world. And I'd sort of vouch for that. This place, Gravy Baby, I should thank them for using their free internet. It was a bit of a struggle, by the way, finding good internet here. It's got great food, really good food. And you can get food from right around the world. Even this place has got food from about 5 or 6 different sort of countries. And you can get great Indian food. You've got a combination of majority Chinese, then you've got Malaysians, and about 7 or 8% Indians. So great Indian food here, fantastic Chinese, Malaysian food, and also because of the its British colony days, British colonisation, it's got still quite a strong Western influence in a lot of the food. It's even though a place like Georgetown is quite similar to old Phuket town in Phuket, Thailand. Hi, Mark. It's more sort of like the outskirts of sort of the unfancy parts of Singapore than it is like Thailand. But look, it's a really interesting place to go, and you can wander around Georgetown for a couple of days. There's lots of art galleries and small cafes and restaurants, cheap and expensive. A lot of little boutique hotels. I'm staying in one hotel that was 3-star on booking.com. It looked lovely. It looked very quaint. But quaint on the internet sometimes means pretty trashy when you actually get there. And some very clever photographers made it look a lot better on booking.com than it actually was. It says it's 3-star, but I think at least 2 of those stars are from exuberant people from the hotel rating themselves, or just 2 blobs that they thought were stars. It's certainly not a 3-star hotel. I won't name it. But anyway, the bed's clean and it's got clean towels in the shower, so I could do a lot worse. It was just for 2 days, and I just booked it like that. It was the first one that came up, and I just booked it straight away. So that's why I'm here. I hear that you're not allowed to say that Penang food is bad when you're in Penang. Not sure about that. Thanks, PJ. Good morning. Tim from Melbourne says, Mark, coffee there up to scratch. Yeah, the coffee here is quite good. There's a famous brand here of instant coffee called White Coffee. And a bit racist, isn't it? So I remember Wyatt was great in the past, and I used to grab a sachet every time I headed back to Thailand in the past. Why was it so good? I can't remember, but I'll probably grab another bag of it when I leave. It's very available, and they love promoting their white coffee. So I'll grab a bag and I'll try and remember why I thought it was so good. Stephen, hello from Mornington. Mornington, my old hometown. 63 years ago. Notice that the waiters in that place not using masks, unlike Thailand, like it. What about walking around mask-wise? Okay, look, I'm just looking outside. This is the view I'm looking at. And there's people sort of wearing masks and people not wearing masks. I'd have to say the majority are not wearing masks. Yeah, so it's not something I've actually really been looking for. But yeah, generally the people here are not wearing masks. So I suppose you could say that compared to Thailand, where a lot of people are still wearing masks. On the aeroplane yesterday, the aircraft staff were all wearing face masks, but there was no suggestion that we had to do the same. I was actually sitting in an exit row, and it was quite funny when the lady came to explain, as they do to the people in the exit row, that how you open the doors and escape if you have to. Gotta hope that never happens. Anyway, she had a mask on, and she was talking to this side, and you have to do this. I couldn't hear a word she was saying because of the mask. So when it comes to safety, I think the aircraft staff might be a lot better without the masks. But as I said a little bit earlier, COVID is still a thing. And it looks like in Australia, I was looking at the numbers, they've got another surge on at the moment. And you've got places like China, which are now going through a big surge. Probably their first big wave, officially, that they've had ever since the start of the pandemic. They've got higher numbers now than they've had over the past 3 years, even despite their zero COVID policy. Okay, I arrived. This is one of those days where I'm going to be rambling all over the place. So I arrived on time. The flight was fine. On Firefly, you have to pay extra for any luggage, for any food. It's basically a budget airline. I don't think it used to be, but it certainly is now. I can hear myself talking in the background. It turns me off. So we arrived at immigration, and I posted a photo on my Facebook page yesterday. I've never seen an immigration area so busy. They only had around about half of the immigration stands staffed, and the head of immigration came out, and we saw all these queues all going up the escalators and everything. It was a mess. And he added some extra staff. And it took me about an hour and a half to get through immigration, so it wasn't a great start to the holiday, but thank heavens for mobile phones and airport Wi-Fi. You can keep yourself busy while waiting. Then I jumped into a taxi, and that started a 2-hour trip to Georgetown, arriving late on a Friday in Penang, and wanting to get into a taxi going from the north of the island to the south. It does involve south of the island to the north. From one end of the island to the other, I can't remember. But yeah, it took 2 hours, and it was a fixed fare, so the taxi driver got the worst end of the deal there. So one of the aspects, of course, of living anywhere in Malaysia is it's a predominantly Muslim country. And so, depending on where you are in the country, you'll be woken up before sunrise with the call to prayer. Now, the call to prayer is something that I'm quite familiar with, because living where I do in Phuket, which has quite a strong Muslim population, around about a kilometre away there's a mosque. And it's in the distance, and it's quite haunting, quite beautiful. And I don't mind the call to prayer. It's not loud enough to wake you up, but if you are awake, it's there in the distance, echoing as the light slowly appears for the new day. But the call to prayer, unfortunately, where I'm staying, I'm not exactly sure where the local mosque is here in Georgetown, but they had one of the speakers, I think probably about 5 metres away from the window of my room. So it wasn't so much a call to prayer, it was a frightening wake-up. I should also say, and this is no offence to the Muslim people, that the person who was performing the call to prayer. I always thought they might have been recorded, but no, this morning's definitely wasn't. And he may have been the standby call to prayer person, I'm not sure. But he wouldn't have got through the first round of American Idol or The Voice. He couldn't sing. And many of the calls to prayer I've heard over the years have been beautiful and haunting and enchanting. This morning it sounded like a dead cat or a dying cat. It was the most appalling noise. So I hope the regular person performing the call to prayer does return. I could hear in other parts of the town there were other calls to prayer, and they were doing a lot better, but the one had, I don't know, I didn't even look out the window, but the speaker must have been facing my window and had been about 5 metres away. Thank you, Scott D. That's very kind of you. Scott D, one of our regular viewers, contributors, and indeed a very generous person. And Scott, I'm very grateful for your ongoing support, and thank you very much for today's generous thought. So here in Penang, it's 21 minutes past 10, which is 21 minutes past 9 in Thailand, and I have no idea what time it is where you're watching at the moment, but I do note that there's quite a few people from around the world watching. So it's great for you to drop in and have our weekly get-together, and thank you for your ongoing support of the weekly program as well. How much did the hotel cost? The hotel was cheap. 2,500 baht for 2 nights, including breakfast. I'll use the word breakfast advisedly. It tasted fine, but it was quite limited in its scope. It was sort of a buffet breakfast, but basically included scrambled eggs, baked beans, some sort of sausage, and toast, and coffee that wasn't very good. Excuse me, I'm just going to blow my nose. Bit itchy. Just look away for a moment. There we go. You won't see it, but you will hear it. There we are. All done. Better now. Okay. So where are we? Let's have a talk about travel at the moment. Enough about my travel. What are you doing with travel? Have you travelled since COVID? What was your experience? Apart from the flights being quite expensive, having said that, travelling down to Penang wasn't that bad. Probably a little bit more than I used to pay in the past. Excuse me. But probably 20-30% higher. It certainly wasn't a lot higher. But I know people coming from the USA, people coming from Europe, people coming from Australia, people coming from the UK, they are paying way above what they used to pay, in some cases 2 to 3 times. Now I think some people, I've got your channel in my recommended list. Thank you. Disappeared already. Bronson, thank you very much, Bronson. So I think a lot of people put off by the high prices of flights. Now those flight costs are partly the airlines trying to recover a lot of their losses during COVID, partly the increase in fuel prices, partly the shortage of staff causing a shortage of flights, a shortage of aircraft back in the sky, and all that is pushing up the prices. It does mean that we're seeing flights that are full, and I think generally though, it's putting a lot of people off travelling. It's also changing the demographic of the people who are travelling. I think, for example, the backpacker crowd are certainly put off by the high prices. And I notice in Thailand that they're not necessarily discounting the hotel room prices. In some cases, they're probably more now than they were before COVID. But again, you can have a look around. Robert telling me that there's also a shortage of pilots. So many people have sort of gone off and done other things during COVID, in many cases because they had to. a lot of us have had a change of business, a change of life since COVID, myself included. I've moved on from what I was doing for 6 years after founding a business and building it up. I found it much easier to work by myself again. And rather than having 100 staff, I've got no staff. It's got 2 cats and myself. And I'm thoroughly enjoying a much lower stress life and just working by myself again. And I should say again that I'm very grateful for your support as I build up this new little business. $1,500, I'm assuming that might be US dollars. Business return flying Scoot from Melbourne. Oh, this is the Scoot Plus to Bangkok. About $350 Australian dollars, I'm assuming, more than usual. I'm in Isan now. Yeah, I flew Scoot Plus to and from Australia via Singapore from Phuket, and I actually got the fare very, very cheaply. It was a lot less than $1,500. I think I got mine for about $1,100 return in Scoot Plus, which is sort of the sort of a premium economy type level of service. I found it very good, by the way, and I could highly recommend it. And if you are travelling from Australia to Thailand at the moment, check out Scoot Plus. They're been a good performer. They're majority owned Singapore Airlines, and they've been performing very well. AirAsia are, I think, heading back to Australia now. I think 3 destinations, the Gold Coast, Sydney and Melbourne. You'll have to check the website and confirm that. So they're another way that you can come to Thailand via KL. And you've also got Jetstar, but they've had all sorts of huge problems. I think they're getting them sorted out now, but they had half their fleet of 787 Dreamliners out of service for all sorts of reasons, mostly relating to maintenance and shortage of maintenance parts and maintenance staff. So that wasn't a good look. Jetstar, of course, connected to Qantas, which are also having quite a bad PR time at the moment. So what are your experiences with travel over the past few months? Have you found it easy to travel, and is the cost of the travel putting you off? I'm going to sort of just also say that Thai Airways, the legacy airline in Thailand, used to be owned by the government. It's no longer owned by the government. It's owned by a whole lot of other partly government shareholders, but it's not a government airline anymore in such a way that the government's in a situation where they have to bail them out every year like they did for over a decade as they made massive losses. So Thai Airways, they're apparently back in the black according to their latest report. The last quarter they've been able to get back in the black. And they're pulling some of the aircraft they were trying to sell. I think they were trying to sell about 32 aircraft, including some of the older 747s, the 400s. They were selling all of those. They were trying to sell some of their A380s. And what are some of the other aircraft they were trying to sell? Oh, some Airbus A330s as well. But I think they're pulling some of those, they're dusting them off and giving the engines a bit of a tickle, and then they're putting them back into service because that's the cheapest way and the quickest way for them to cope with the pent-up demand. Let's have a talk about that demand in Thailand at the moment. And I don't want to be accused of being in any way racist here or xenophobic, but I just want to call a spade a spade. But there has been an enormous change to the demographics in the people travelling to Thailand over the past, well, since the start of this year. Basically, Thailand started reopening up in its, what did they call it? I can't even remember what they called it now. We forget so quickly. It wasn't the certificate of something or other, and anyway, Thailand started reopening back in January this year. This is what happens to your memory as you get older. And the numbers of travellers have slowly built up and up and up. And at the moment, they're around about 35% of pre-COVID times, although they're expecting those numbers obviously to keep increasing as we get into the high season, the 2022-2023 high season. But the demographics, firstly we started by getting a lot of people from short haul locations. Then we started getting quite a few people from Europe. Then we had the Russia invasion of Ukraine in February this year. And then the Russians stopped coming. The Chinese haven't restarted coming, although there have been quite a few students, Chinese students returning, business people from China who are able to travel at the moment, despite the travel restrictions, but nothing like the number of Chinese which we had pre-COVID, which was up to around about 25% of the total travel numbers of international travellers coming to Thailand. But then, especially in places like Phuket, but also Bangkok and Pattaya, I understand, we got a lot of Indian travellers coming from the middle of the year to, say, the end of October. Now, the Indian traffic has started to level off and in some cases drop down, but thanks to the Indian travellers, the Thailand tourism industry has been able to kickstart itself again. And without those Indian travellers, the tourism industry in Thailand would be still in a horrendous mess of undersupply of tourists. So we're in a situation now where that in the last 2 or 3 weeks has profoundly changed. And these big changes to the tourist demographics, it causes headaches for the airlines. They don't know where to fly to, so they have to keep on changing their destinations to try and meet the demand. So where are most of the travellers in Thailand? The vast majority. In fact, if you add the second and third large numbers of people coming to Thailand, nationalities, you still don't get the numbers of the highest ranking number of tourists travellers coming to Thailand at the moment, which is Russians. Now, I'm not sure how many of these are tourists, how many might be considered as refugees, or people just fleeing the country for one reason or another. But this is a big, profound change to the demographic of travellers arriving in Thailand at the moment. Now, I'm just going to make a completely rash, broad statement here that I am assuming that some of these people are refugees. Some of these are perhaps young men who are trying to get out of being drafted after the September 21 announcement by President Putin that he was going to draft all young men to join in the war between Russia and Ukraine. So if they can arrive in Thailand, this is Russian people, they can get 45 days on arrival, and then they can extend that for another 30 days. My question is, okay, how do I know if they're Russians or Ukrainians? Look, I don't. And there could be Ukrainians as well. However, I'm quoting the statistics coming out of the immigration department, and I haven't even seen Ukraine travellers in the top 10 yet. But Russian travellers are by far number one at the moment. So that's how I know the numbers, because I'm quoting the official statistics from immigration. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be able to tell a Russian person from a Ukrainian in the street, so I'll acknowledge that. So what's going to happen, though, after the 45 days and the 30-day extension is over? These people, like everybody else, will have to find some way to stay in Thailand if they wish to. If they are refugees, they're not considered officially refugees, so they don't have any status as a refugee. They don't have any particular treaty with Thailand, between Russia and Thailand, to allow them to stay here. They're going to have to get a long-term visa like everybody else, or they'll just skip off to another country, like the Maldives, for example, gives people from Russia a 90-day visa not a visa on arrival, a visa exemption. Malaysia gives Russian people, I understand, 90 days on arrival. So they might just flit off to another country that gives them a relatively long term of visa before they have to figure out where they go next. But this is a very interesting dynamic. Now, a lot of these Russian people do spend a lot of money. They're not tight with their spending. Generally, they're quite big spenders. And the wealthy Russians love showing how they can spend too and flash their money around. And the restaurateurs love the Russians because apparently they treat them quite well and tip quite well as well. So this is just another dynamic that Thailand's going to have to cope with as it recovers its tourism industry. Firstly, there was this flood of Indians who were, it was the first time they had become the main travel demographic in Thailand. Now, almost within a few weeks, we've got a change, a profound change to a large number of Russians coming to Thailand. Just noting that the Australians keep on coming back in the same sort of numbers year after year, and they've been in the top 5 travel nations to Thailand over the past year. Despite all the changes up at the top, Australians have been number 2, 3 or 4 all the way through, particularly in Phuket. So anyway, there you go, just a comment about this changing demographic. Just another question to you. Do you think by Thailand accepting all these Russian travellers, is this good for Thailand's reputation? Would it actually put some people off saying, oh, I'm against the Russians and the war, so I'm not going to travel to Thailand because they're letting Russian people come and travel there? I mean, I think this is the same problem a lot of people make with when they comment about China. They, for example, say, oh, I don't like the Chinese because the Communist Party have done this and that, forgetting that 1.3 billion Chinese really don't have much say with the way that their country is run, and we shouldn't hold the problems with the Chinese Communist Party against the Chinese people. In the same way, it's a bit hard to blame all Russians for what's happening with the decision-making of the President Putin. So I don't blame a lot of these Russian people from trying to get out of the place at the moment for whatever reason. And I think certainly in Thailand they're being greeted warmly and happily as Thailand struggles to get its tourist numbers back. But do you think there could be any long-term fallout? Do you think there could be some countries or some people that would hold that against Thailand for being so accepting in taking all these Russian people at the moment? So I'm just asking these questions. I mean, I don't have any problems with any particular country coming here at the moment. And I think it certainly shows that Thailand don't necessarily hold any international grudges. Their neutrality has been a feature of their foreign policy for, over 100 years. And I don't think that it's going to be a problem for the Thais, but you may think different about that. Let's go to some of your comments, because I've sort of run out of things that I was going to talk about. And I might just scroll back and see if I can find some of your comments. Okay, my hot photo here says sex find XYZ. I am going to hide you from the channel. I don't think you're one of the usual viewers. Shay No Traveller says 2,200 return from Melbourne to Bangkok with 2 weeks notice in September. Whoa, that's pretty expensive, Shay No Traveller, but I hope you enjoyed your time here. KJ says cost is up definitely, but I'm also savouring the smaller crowds. Yeah, I have to say that if you are travelling to Thailand at the moment, you're sort of seeing the place a lot quieter than it has been in the past. Excuse me. And in some cases, I think people will find that to their liking. But of course, we want to see all the shops open. We want to see all the Thai staff getting back to doing what they do well. And we hope the place does benefit from the arrival of everybody very, very soon as tourism slowly picks up. The Imam at my mosque should try harder to sound better, but I have to pray either way, says Khalid. Yes, I certainly wasn't being disrespectful when talking about the call to prayer, just saying that the person who was actually performing the call to prayer this morning, coming through the loudspeaker in my window, wasn't the best vocalist I'd ever heard. I get to experience Thai Airways on a Dreamliner on my trip to KL tomorrow, says Lee Shepherd. I didn't know that Thai Airways Dreamliners. I know they've got the Airbus 350. I wasn't aware they had many Dreamliners, but good luck for your flight to KL. Hans, hi Hans, I think you're back in California. You will get bent over for long-haul flights right now. Yes, certainly it's pretty expensive to travel at the moment. Rusty Lid says, on the good side, once you're in Southeast Asia, there are many regional flights that are still cheap and plentiful. Yeah, this is a really good point, Rusty, because certainly most of the discount airlines within Thailand, are still very competitive. They're around about, I'm just giving a rough ballpark, 20 to 30% what they used to be at their cheapest in the past, but they're still quite cheap, and short-haul flights in a lot of Asia are still quite competitive. Thai Airways has 6 Boeing 787-800, says Bill. Thank you very much, Bill. I haven't seen those yet, but thank you for bringing me up to date. The Dreamliner, a very nice plane, which I flew on Scoot, flew to Melbourne in a Dreamliner, very nice plane, particularly up the front. Tickets are significantly more, says Khalid. Expensive. I'm thinking twice about booking a ticket to Thailand this December, noting that, look, December and January will always be more expensive because it is the high season, and this being the first high season since the sort of borders have been reopened, a lot of the flights will be both full and expensive, as will some of the accommodation. But I think a lot of people will enjoy getting back to Thailand, and there'll be a great atmosphere as people start getting back to a lot of tourists coming. Chicago to Bangkok on JAL, says Scott, the day after Christmas for $5,500 USD for a family of 4. Purchased flight 2 weeks later, purchased 3 months in advance. Scott, that's a lot of money, isn't it? Wow. But if you do get to Thailand, make sure you drop me a line. Rachel Masters, forgetfulness is classed as having a senior's moment. Yes, thank you very much for reminding me, Rachel. I'm continually forgetful. Chicano on the go. I'm lucky from Colombo, which is Sri Lanka, to Bangkok is only $250 US, says Teddy Bear. A 3-hour flight each way. So Confucius says, how do you know they're Russians? I think I explained that. The figures are from immigration, they're official figures. 800 baht for taxis from Phuket Airport to Patong. Yeah, let's just have a quick talk about the trip from the airport to Patong. You'd be aware that part of the Patong Hill Road collapsed around about 3 weeks ago after torrential rains. Might be even a month today. So they closed the road off, then they opened it up for pedestrians, then they opened up for motorcycles, then they've opened up 1 lane for cars at the start of this week. Now they've opened up 1 lane each, going up and going down for cars. The damaged road, it still hasn't been fixed, but the road closer to the cliff is being opened, so you can now travel up and down 1 lane. That happened, I think, on Thursday morning, Thursday lunchtime. But now everybody's thinking, oh, Patong Hill Road's open, so they've got all the traffic that used to go up on 2 lanes up and 2 lanes down, now all sort of siphoned into 1 lane in each direction. And it's just mayhem at the moment. There were big trailbacks of traffic going up the hill from Katu and also from Patong. I noted yesterday there were quite a few photos. So look, they still haven't sorted out what they're going to do. They're still using the road along through Surin and Kamala to get from the airport, and also, of course, from Caron across the road there. So as they come into the high season with more people arriving, they're scrambling to try and get that Patong Hill Road open and they're scrambling to get some alternatives open as well. But I'll try and bring you up to date on our daily show next week when I get some more details. From watching the walk-around videos, I'm noticing a lot of people from India and possibly Koreans, because I don't think Chinese are allowed to travel yet. Yeah, Chinese can travel at the moment, but you need to be in certain categories. Business people, depending on their business, and also students can travel at the moment. So I think a lot of people are travelling. I think in the first 9 months this year, there was 169,000 Chinese who travelled to Thailand, which keeps them well out of the top 10 numbers of travellers, but they have been travelling to Thailand, but not just the day-to-day travellers. A Rusty Lid, I did notice the traditionally Russian wing of Walking Street is still completely shut down. I'm not aware of the Russian wing of Walking Street. I assume you're talking about Pattaya, but thank you very much for that. KJD, flights are currently double the price we would normally pay in February. I visit the beaches daily and interact with many people from Russia. I've met around 25 men who have left and are now trying to figure out what to do next. Many have jobs they can do online. I suspect this is what's happening. This is retired Ruan. I suspect you are correct, retired Ruan, that there are a lot of people who are fleeing Russia rather than just casually travelling out of Russia. But I think this is going to be a problem for Thai immigration over the next 2 or 3 months, as a lot of these people try and find ways to stay longer, extend their stay in the country. Bronson says, good for Thailand. Bronson, yes, good for Thailand, good for their economy. Tim, don't hate us. Wife retired from major US airline, so we have flight benefits. Allows us to retire here in Thailand, in the US, and in the US. Don't hate you at all, Jack. Good luck to you. Dennis Reel, I think that the public service are doing a great job. Despite the rain, they have to work with the traffic. Bravo. Are we talking about Thailand? Phuket? Thai Darwin to Lampong. I think they're talking to each other again. People, Thai always has 6 months, 7%, not looking. Robbie, hi Robbie, says, not looking, returning to Melbourne next Saturday. Fourth COVID wave now wreaking havoc on the East Coast. 100 plus positive on a cruise ship just docked in Sydney. I'm going to have to read up about this story, but I am aware that there has been an increase in COVID cases in Australia in recent days. I don't know how that's going to sort of show what's going to happen with that. I think people are going, oh God, more lockdowns. I don't think that's going to happen. How it's going to transpire into action by the authorities or by the tourist industry would be interesting. Fat Boy Slim, your channel is amazing, Tim. Thank you very much. Hi from the UK. Hi from Penang in Malaysia. Okay, so there, I think I've sort of gotten most of my thoughts out about travel at the moment. I think travel is just a little bit more difficult. I've noticed, when I arrived back in Thailand from Australia a few weeks ago, I just walked off the aeroplane straight through immigration. I was the first person there. There wasn't a queue. I arrived in Penang yesterday and the place was packed, and it took me an hour and a half to get through immigration. I've seen photos at Suvarnabhumi Airport over the past couple of weeks of it packed, people trying to get through immigration. Other people have said they sailed through immigration at Suvarnabhumi. So I don't know. I just suspect that it's taking a while for everybody to get back to trying to create a normalised situation. And I would have thought that somewhere between the control tower and immigration, they can say, hey, there's 3 planes coming in the next 10 minutes. You need to put some more immigration staff on. I don't know if they have that sort of contact, but airports around the world are trying to get the flights through, that the airlines are trying to get the flights back up in the sky, they're trying to keep the airfares down, but things are just different. And as I mentioned, the people coming to Thailand at the moment, it's just a different crowd. Not good, not bad, it's just different. And that puts a whole lot of challenges on the Thai tourism industry as it tries to cater for the people that are arriving at the moment. So in the middle of the year and into September and October, we had so many of the Indian travellers. And I've seen more Indian restaurants open up in Phuket, for example. I love Indian food, so that's been great. But now we've got all these Russian people arriving. And how's that going to change things as well? And are the tour agents and the tour groups, are they going to cater their packages for that Russian market? Interesting times ahead. We'll do a few other comments, and then I think I probably said all I need to say today. And unless you've got something you'd like to bring up. More remote work, says Bronson. I think that's also happening. A lot of people working online. Well, here I am. I'm working. I'm online. I'm in Penang. I'm remote. So I think you're right. In fact, yeah, what if you own office space as a real estate agent, this remote work is going to certainly downgrade the rent that you'll be able to demand for those offices. I've seen a lot of empty offices up in Bangkok of recent times. A lot of people are working remotely, there's no doubt. The Russian bars are on Soy Diamond in Pattaya. I'll have to take your word for it. I'm not familiar with the bar scene in Pattaya. Just using masks in certain areas in Queensland, okay? Love the road trip. You get to see much more. Frank, in Thailand, uptick in tourism and indeed running a little behind the new reality. KJ, perhaps staff were redeployed because of the low number of travellers during COVID, and it's taking a while to redeploy them back. Yeah, look, I think a lot of places they're saying, oh, the tourists are coming. Oh, we better open up, or we better find some staff. And the airlines are being caught short as well. I think this also relates to maintenance, getting a lot of the planes back up and flying. They don't just turn the start key and take off. It's a very expensive enterprise. I understand it can be like up to $1 million to get a plane that's been grounded for a couple of years back up in the sky, according to some pilot friends I've been speaking to. So this has been a really difficult time for the airlines. So I don't hate on them. I think they're doing a pretty good job given the situation we've got at the moment. Is there a visa on arrival in Malaysia? Look, I will have a look at my passport. I just walked in to the country. Where's my passport? Here we are. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, here we are. I don't think I can read this. 11th of November, that's when I arrived. And I need my glasses, I'm sorry. That's the stamp there. I can't read it. Malaysia, Sabah, 90 days. So it's 90 days visa on arrival. There you go. So it's basically a visa exemption program. Is it? Or is this an actual visa? It's called a visitor pass. So 90 days. There you go. So there you answered your question. So as an Australian citizen, arriving from overseas, I got a visitor pass for 90 days. I'm only here for 2. I'm doing most of my travelling through virtual reality, says Chicano on the go. Yeah, but it's not the same. You can't taste the food. You can't smell the air. You can't get a vibe of the traffic. You can't go and sit in a cool place and enjoy the atmosphere. You can't dangle your feet in the water. So, yeah. You can only do so much virtually, right? You know what I mean. Okay, I'm doing most of it. MAS is 90 days fly-in or 15 days land crossing. Malaysia, I think you're talking about there, Mark. Yeah, the metaverse is working out well. I think I need to do a program about the metaverse because I'm in this sort of industry. I've been doing a lot of research on the metaverse, and I just don't get it. I think we're seeing the new cryptocurrency with people investing in real estate in the metaverse now and paying huge amounts of money for virtual land, virtual real estate in this metaverse, which is basically controlled by Meta, by Facebook, by Mark Zuckerberg's company. So if you're thinking of investing in this, just remember that you're investing in one company. So I think we need to do a program about the metaverse soon. A lot of people don't really understand much about it. I've been doing a lot of reading about it. I'll be dabbling in the metaverse. I won't be investing a single red cent in the metaverse, and I think you're crazy if you do, but I'm sure there'll be people that will make money out of it. I'm sure there'll be people that lose a lot of money through investing in it, and it will be very interesting to see. Just noting that Bitcoin this week dropped to its lowest level in more than 2 years, and I think it's got a fair way to fall as well. Interesting times ahead. Sorry, I'm sniffling. I shouldn't be doing that on camera. DW says Thai Airways has gone downhill a lot. I use EVA, they're from Taiwan, for long haul, and they're really good. Depends where you're going and if you can use EVA, of course. But DW, thank you for your comment. Tim, we are still waiting for your show on snakes and treatment of a bite. Yeah, I'm still waiting on doing a whole lot of things. I do have my very first Sunday program coming out tomorrow. I might try and get the Snake Man on during the week. He does live in Phuket, and he knows a lot about snakes. I had a situation where I had to call this person a few weeks ago to come to my aid because we had a snake in the house, and I don't do snakes. I don't mind spiders, don't mind rats, don't mind a lot of vermin, but I just do not do snakes or reptiles generally. So I had to call he couldn't find the snake in the end, which was all very embarrassing. But yeah, I'll try and get him in because I think he's a good chat, and I think he will dispel a lot of misunderstandings of snakes in Thailand. Do a segment on NFTs. That's the latest fad that will most likely crash. NFTs, no, just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Can I be the mod, says Shane Shear. Well, you could be, but you're going to have to come and sit next to me. It's the only way to moderate things, okay? Because I need someone to actually read them and read them out to me. That's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to try and get a different person sitting with me each week, somebody perhaps of interest, and maybe spend 2 hours on a particular topic. I know, for example, I've got an eye doctor who's going to come and sit with me and discuss about a particular type of eye surgery, and we can do an extended discussion, and you can talk to the doctor as well. And I'm going to try and get different experts in to make this Saturday morning program a little bit more broad, a bit more useful to you, and hopefully more interesting rather than just me yabba yabba yabba. Cost of visitor pass in Malaysia, no cost. I just walked in and they put the stamp, didn't cost me anything at all. As far as I know, arriving as an Australian, and that would be the same for many Western countries, is free. There's no cost of a visitor pass. I would be interested in lens replacement in Thailand, says Hans. That's what we're going to be talking about, lens replacement. Just noting that I have had the lenses in my eyes, the natural lenses inside my eyes, removed and replaced with artificial lenses. And they're called multifocal lenses. And it means that because they're multifocal, that I can see short, medium and long distance. In the past, they used to put just single focus lenses in your eyes, which used to sort of focus around about, sort of 10, 20 feet away. So long distance was okay when it was bright and you just wore some light reading glasses to read. But now with these multifocal lenses, you can see 3 planes of focus. I mean, I can see absolutely everything from here to infinity in 100% focus. It is amazing, and I wake up each day and I look through these bits of plastic in my eye and amazed at the technology. If you'd like some more details, send an email to timnewtontoday@gmail.com, and I will be in very soon. I'm speaking to the doctor. We're just trying to get a few details sorted out about the ethics and a few other matters, so that I can pass on his details if you want to get this surgery or would like to have a consultation in the future. Excuse me again. I think I was still on camera. Didn't work very well, did it? You could not read your passport. Well, yes, very fine print at that close distance, but I was able to read it in the end, right? So, yeah, look, I mean, if I was wearing some light reading glasses, it would have been fine. But 99% of the time I can read close, except for very fine print. So it's not like a sort of a 10-year-old perfect close vision, but the fact that I've got reasonably good close vision and a perfect distance vision, but I was able to read it in the end, so it does work. Those multifocal lenses don't seem to be working. Okay. Good plan, having some professional on the show. That lawyer chap you had on the other show was interesting and informative. Yeah, he's in Bangkok and I'm here in Phuket. We'll see what we can do. On Wednesday this week, a Thai Airways flight from Heathrow, UK, was delayed by 4 hours while waiting for a part to be fitted. Passengers had to stay on board the whole time. That's not acceptable, 4 hours sitting in a plane. I really think that amount of time you should be deplaned. I wouldn't be putting up with sitting in a plane seat on the ground for 4 hours at all. Can I get bionic eyes like Steve Austin? You'll have to have a talk to the doctor. I suspect the answer is no. Get Jet on at least once, Tim, says Bronson. Yeah, look, I hope to get Jet on. Actually, he's very knowledgeable about real estate, so that would be fun getting Jet on. I'm going to prove my eyesight now because I'm thinking I'm giving it a bit of a bad rap. So I'm actually going to read what is written on. This could go very, very badly, very quickly. Where it go to my. Okay, permitted to enter Malaysia, in Penang, Malaysia, West Malaysia and Sabah, and it's got the date 90 days on social visit only from the date shown above. So there you go. I can read it. You just need a bit of bright light and yeah, it's not 100% reading, but I never use glasses when I'm working on the computer. I never in fact, I never wear glasses anytime. But if you want to get your close vision, like, you know, this sort of distance, 100%, yeah, if you wear light reading glasses, it just cleans it up. Just use reading glasses, more effective and cheaper than surgery. You're absolutely right. You have to pay money for the surgery, but I was getting to number 3 reading glasses, and I was also losing my distance vision with cataracts, so it was a good solution for me. It's also not an alternative to LASIK. LASIK is a totally different surgery on the front of the eye, the cornea. This is the lenses inside the eye being removed and replaced with artificial lenses. Quite different surgeries for quite different situations, and you shouldn't get them mixed up. Anyway, I'll see if I can get the doctor to have a sit next to me on a Saturday morning program, and we can have a good old talk about eye surgery. A very delightful gentleman, speaks great English, and I think you'd find him quite engaging and quite fascinating. I'm your age, says Robbie, and would love to ditch my lifelong glasses Yeah, look, to me, wearing glasses was just a hassle. I'd always leave my glasses at home. I'd usually have about 20 pairs just strewn around the place and a couple in my bag, and always digging around for them and trying to find them and having to wear them when I was doing any work, and sitting on the bridge of your nose, and it was life-changing for me. It was the best decision I ever made. And I love not having to wear glasses. But yeah, if I am doing some really close work, and some days I wake up and I've got sort of watery eyes because of hay fever, and just popping on those reading glasses just allows me to get through the 10 minutes it takes until sort of my eyes clear up and things get back to normal. Where are your cheaters from last week? They're back at home, Reg. I've got one pair of reading glasses left, and I just only use them like doing things like this, but my computer screen is 50 centimetres away from me. The phone, that's the lens on the phone there, that's about 50 centimetres away from me. I can read all that fine. It says live, 66 minutes, I've got to go. 260 people online, 102 thumbs up, so I can read all that fine. I think glasses bring character to a person's face, makes them look smart. Chicano, I'm going to get a pair of glasses straight away because I need everything in my favour to help me look smart. Very interested in the quality and safety of lens replacement in Australia versus the US. Well, I can actually vouch for this particular gentleman. He's got an extremely good track record, certainly including a lot of people who come from overseas. It's not a cheap procedure. I'll let him have a talk about the costs. But yeah, I think it's very safe. When it comes to anything involving invasive surgery, there are risks. And there are a tiny proportion of people where the outcome won't meet their expectations. But again, he'll talk about that. I've had an extremely good outcome. What you would call a good outcome, a good patient. Are you fully awake? You certainly are, Rob Roy. We were talking cars all the way during the surgery. I can remember all the surgery, absolutely. I can remember going into the surgery. I can remember having the surgery. There are anaesthetic eye drops I didn't have in the two procedures, this eye and this eye. I didn't have any pain, not even discomfort. I didn't have any pain at all. And I was carrying on a normal conversation with the doctor, although he's quite happy if you just shut up and sit there, because you don't want your eyes moving around when he's doing the surgery. But he says, just look at the light, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. But I didn't have any relaxing pill. I was fully awake, but my eyes, of course, were dilated, and I had anaesthetic eye drops. But fully awake, didn't feel a single thing, and I was recovered within about 24 hours. All the wateriness had gone, the focus was sharp. It was quite a different look, but I can you scuba dive with those lenses? Yeah, I don't think there's any problems with scuba diving at all. Wouldn't change anything, I wouldn't imagine. Just make things clearer. Yeah, but look, I'm a fan of the surgery. It worked out very well for me. But if you want to talk about risks and have specific questions, I'll let the doctor answer that. I'll keep that in mind. I'll see if I can get him online in a couple of weeks. Last time I'm walking street outside a Russian club along to okay, it's been blocked by YouTube, your comment. Sir, I'm sorry I can't read that. Rob Roy, yes, you're fully conscious during surgery, no pain at all, says Gucci Jack. Can you scuba dive? Did you have to wear pirate eye patches for the days after the surgery? No. I walked out, I just had some dark sunglasses on because my eyes were dilated. So things are very, very bright until your eyes sort of close back down again. The pupils close back down. So yeah, I was driven home because they won't permit you to drive because your eyes are dilated and they're quite watery for the first 24 hours. But I got a good night's sleep. I took a couple of paracetamol. That was the extent of the post-surgery pain or discomfort. But really, within a day, I was working back to normal. Look, I'll get into more talk about that and the post-operative recovery. And the first thing, the morning after when I opened my eyes, what I saw was different, and I'd like to describe that to you as well. What hospital did you get it done? Hans, I'm not going to describe that at the moment. You can probably put two and two together and figure it out. But look, I'm just waiting for the doctor to clarify all the ethics about us discussing and promoting the issue. So I'll get back to you on that. But if you do want to have a specific contact with the doctor, send me an email to timnewtontoday@gmail.com. I'm sorry that I haven't got back to the people on the same matter, but I'm just waiting for, it just takes a while to get clearances from the hospital and the doctor and to make sure we've got everything in place. So I'll do that. And with that, look, I've got to go. I've spent 71 minutes of your time. I may well get it done in Bangkok, says Hans. Yeah, I'm sure you can get it in Bangkok, although I can highly recommend this doctor, who is quite well known throughout Thailand for his refractive lens exchange surgery. So it may be worth popping down to that little island down south if you are looking to get that procedure done. See you, Tim, says PJ, and with that, I thank you all very much for tuning in. We've discussed a whole lot of things. I'm just concerned about not so much concerned, but acknowledging that there's just a different feel with travel at the moment, apart from the costs and the changing demographics and the people that are travelling at the moment. I think we've got a very interesting year ahead as travel tries to get back to some sort of new reality, and exactly what that reality is going to be. Interesting times ahead. But thank you very much to Gravy Baby. This is their very fine little restaurant, and yeah, nice place. If you are in Penang, drop into Gravy Baby. It's a very good meal and the best breakfast, I would say, in Penang, and certainly one of the best breakfasts I've ever had at a restaurant. So, and same to you, sir. So I think first time we see the back of your head. Really? You don't want to see the back of my head. You two might have to catch up again. I'm off, and I've got a busy day. I've got some stories to write. I've got a blog to write, and I've just got some paperwork to sort out for my visa. How is their gravy? Didn't taste their gravy. Looks nicer than Dean and DeLuca. It's a bit better than Dean and DeLuca. Don't tell them that. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I've got a video coming out tomorrow, and we'll have a video coming out every Sunday from now on as well. And back with our regular daily news, TNT, on Monday. Thanks for watching. What button do I press? I press that. See, I can see what I'm doing. There we go. See ya.